If you haven't already heard, Sukuna is coming to Jujutsu Kaisen Phantom Parade. However, this is on the JP side of the game. I don't believe he's going to come to Global at the same time. There's been no news of him coming to Global at the same time, so we'll probably have to wait a while until he comes out on Global. But here's for the first time ever, I can say it's a good thing that they're speeding up the banners, because that means we're going to get Sukuna faster than the JP side of the game did. We're not going to have to wait a full year, but you know, them speeding up the banners still sucks in so many ways. But if you are looking forward to getting Sukuna, it'll probably be a couple of months, but it's not going to be a full year. So that is something to look forward to. But today we're going to be taking a look at what the JP players are predicting Sukuna is going to be like. I'm very interested in seeing what they're thinking. So they do think it's going to be a domain expansion Sukuna. Like I feel like that's a given the trailer that we watched in the previous video. But they think a few more things about it, and it's really interesting some of the stuff they came up with, because it's similar kind of to my line of thought. So I'm super excited to go over this with you guys. So in the official PV of Jujutsu Kaisen, a scene was played in which two-sided Sukuna uses region expansion. It is thought that it will be a special skill with unparalleled attack performance using sword and solution. Some of the translations are a little bit weird, guys, so it might be hard to understand. So just keep that in mind. This is the JP side of the information. The range is expected to be an all-out attack. In other words, they expect it to be an AoE attack for the domain, similar to like Gojo's, and it's going to be able to hit everybody. It might be similar to Megumi's, we don't know yet. It might be like attack one person but expand the domain for everybody. I don't know, we'll have to see. I think Hanami is probably the best example right now of what we have on Global, a domain that expands and does damage. The realm expansion of double-sided Sukuna is bound to give the opponent an escape route, and the area of effect is expanded to a radius of about 200 meters. Even in battle, it can be expected to be an attack that has a large range to damage the entire enemy team, right? Then continuing on for the domain, what can we expect? Sukuna can attack by constantly slashing enemies, so that is during his domain expansion. He might have multiple attacks like we saw with the Anniversary Itadori when he expands his domain potentially. I think that's a high possibility. And then they also say it is likely to be equipped with sustained damage such as region expansions, fire, and poison. So you can end up with fire and or poison damage, or some sort of continuous damage, right? So basically, if you don't know how this Itadori works, if you haven't kept up with the JP side of the game, if you use his ultimate, then after using his ultimate, you'll be able to use 2 skills within 1 turn. So it's highly probable that the new Sukuna will be able to do a similar thing where he can use 2 skills within 1 turn, and then he's also going to apply DOT or damage over time effects to either one enemy or multiple enemies. This is what they're hypothesizing, at least. The characteristic attributes of the Innkeeper are likely to be night characteristics, so they think that this new character is going to be a night characteristic. So what they mean when they say night characteristic, if I'm understanding it right, I could be wrong about this translation here, okay guys, so I apologize if I am, but I believe night characteristic is referring to the typing of the character, and it's going to be referring to the fact that this new Sukuna will probably be a green character, because recently with the anniversary and the rerun of JJK 0, which both of those things are mentioned right here, and it shows pictures above, we got a red character, a yellow character, and a new blue character, right? These 2 are reruns, but we have not gotten any new green characters. So because we haven't gotten any new green characters, the JP players seem to be thinking that it is highly probable that we will get a green character. I don't think night stands for anything new. I don't think it's like a new type being introduced to the game. I could be wrong. It might have nothing to do with typing, but that makes the most sense right here looking at this translation. This is just Google Translate. I don't know Japanese. I don't translate it myself, so hopefully that makes sense, but I think it's highly probable that the new Sukuna will be a green character. And then it says can't organize them at the same time as Yuji Itadori. So this is the interesting part. Since Sukuna is the incarnate vessel of Yuji Itadori, it seems that it cannot be organized at the same time as Itadori. That's interesting. I feel like that's been confirmed. The way they say that, it sounds like it's been confirmed that you won't be able to run Sukuna on the same team as Itadori, which makes sense with this next part. So there is a high possibility that Sukuna will return or go back into the form of Yuji Itadori with a turn limit. So similar to how Gojo leaves after a certain amount of turns, it's highly probable that Sukuna doesn't necessarily leave, which is already better than Gojo, but he turns back into Itadori. So Sukuna is the strongest character in Jujutsu Kaisen, along with Gojo. So there may be restrictions such as emergency use and withdrawal. It is likely that there will be a production such as leaving the battle line and returning to the incarnate Yuji Itadori after the turn. That's really interesting. We'll have to see how that works out. If it's after the domain or if it's after so many turns, it's going to be, we'll have to just see how they implement it. But like, for example, Green Gojo leaves after he uses his ultimate. Is it going to be like a thing where Sukuna leaves after he's used his domain and the turns expire for that? Or is it going to be just like after 7 turns, like the general pool Gojo, that Sukuna is just going to leave the battle? So we'll have to see what ends up happening. But JP players do believe there is a high probability that something like that is going to happen. So I had mentioned in the previous video, like, do we think it's going to be a dual unit? And everybody was like, nah, the two-sided Sukuna, like the way it was translated, right? Double-sided Jukoshu, however you say that. They're like, that just stands for Ryomen Sukuna. Like, they didn't agree. They're like, there's no way. But then the JP players are even saying there's a chance. So there you go. There's a chance. It's a probability. We'll just have to see when the character comes out. But I think that honestly makes a lot of sense. And it sounds very, very sick. And then somehow, I don't know how, they come up with these recommended teams for a character that they actually know absolutely nothing about, but we'll go through this anyways. So pretty simple team right here. I guess you can't really, no one's gonna flame them for this team because you could literally run these first 3 characters with any attacker character in the game and it's gonna be a good team, right? So this team is fine for Sukuna, I'm sure, if he's gonna be an attacker. So a formation that uses Sukuna as the main attacker and attacks with Night Moss and Nanami to increase firepower. Yuki can use skill 3 to supply the party's cursed energy for boss battles. Use the special attack of Sukuna and Yuki to cut down on HP. Wow, crazy. Who would have thought you would use this ultimate and this ultimate together to do big damage? They are recommending non-standard. They do think that his skills are going to be Jujutsu based as opposed to Taijutsu based, which is interesting. I think that makes a lot of sense for his domain, at least. We'll have to see. And then they have a second recommended team here with the recollection that gives you your ultimate faster. Makes sense because if you are going to have a domain character that expands his domain on his ultimate, you of course are going to want his ultimate faster. So that makes a lot of sense right there as well. And then here is all the recommended recollections. So these are all non-standard, and the 2 strongest people seem to be their 2 main recommendations based on the idea that he's going to have Jujutsu attack. But you can never go wrong with Adult Time, which has both, and you can never go wrong with Pride, which is just a decent free-to-play recollection, right? And then they have this recollection here, which gives the ultimate skill gauge to a character, which whether he does Taijutsu or Jujutsu damage, that will be fine as well. So all these recommendations are very generic in my opinion, but they will definitely work on Sukuna no matter what, however he comes out. Unless for some reason every skill he has is Taijutsu, then non-standard won't work, right? But I highly doubt that. So Sukuna's special skill, domain expansion, is likely to be a Jujutsu attack. We recommend non-standard and the strongest 2 that increase firepower of the special technique. And his special is going to be a domain expansion. I feel like that's confirmed with the way they're showing this. I don't know that that was actually confirmed for sure, but it seems like the domain expansion is pretty much going to happen on a special. I don't think we've ever had a character that has their domain expansion done through a different skill. And that is pretty much all that we have right now on Sukuna. So nothing else information-wise. As soon as I know something, you guys will know something. So if you enjoyed the video, please consider going down there, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and thank you guys so much for watching and supporting the channel. Peace.